I forgot to hit record on this thing. 1 second. Time out. Time out. Time out. Everyone, time out. Time out. Oh man. Here we go. How's it going, everyone? This is Jason Navarro. You're listening to Tongues Out Podcast, and let's get into our second live podcast. And so today, as always, there is absolutely zero agenda about what we're going to be talking about. So essentially, whatever you guys want to chit chat, what the heck is going on? Am I still live? I think I'm live. I don't see myself live on my computer monitor screen. Um, wait, that's not it. Oh, that's a lie. I am live. I'm live, but kind of. No, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Okay. I don't know what's going on here on the PC setup. Okay, we're good. Wait. Are we not good? What's going on here? Channel. Okay. Yes, we are good. JK. So as always today, no real agenda. We're going to just kind of allow people to just kind of come in to the chat, and we'll just kind of go about different things. So to touch on, man, what was that? That person had asked me the other day. Oh, I'm actually very curious about is it possible to have more than a two-party system? I'm really curious about that. And so I don't know if I talked about this in the podcast yet. And episode 92, that's what today's live podcast would be considered, is episode 92. There's clearly going to be a ton of things that we're going to be talking about, but I think I've touched on this before. So when I was raised in Florida, I was a hardcore conservative individual, and I believed in being fiscally responsible, and I studied finance, and I was a gun owner, and there was a lot of things that I aligned. I was against abortion. I wasn't for government getting involved with abortions, but that's a subject that we could tackle maybe live on the podcast. But was not religious. I mean, at first when I was of age, I was kind of religious, but I was getting away from the religious perspective. And so I was kind of religious, not really. So there was a lot of parts of myself that were raised being conservative. And then as I got older, I started to lean away from that perspective and start to lean more on the liberal perspective, because I really felt that conservatives really failed society for a majority of the time that I was alive up to Obama's point. I saw a lot of failures that existed under the leadership of the Conservative Party, and it got me really challenging the perspective of whether that party was the right party. And instinctively, what most people do is they start to navigate to the opposite side, and that was the Democratic Party. And I started to agree with certain of their points that they were fighting for, which was like an equality perspective, like viewing everyone as equals and not prejudging individuals based off of their sexual orientation and everything of that nature. And but there was just a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with it as well. One of them, and it's been a strong message recently, is universal health care. I don't. That's a tough one because, okay, so there are many different ways that the Democrats have been trying to kind of offer universal health care to everyone. But I don't think they're really targeting the right areas. They're trying to just give everyone a whole bunch of insurance, where we know that healthcare costs in the U.S. are some of the most expensive in the world when it comes to level of care. And then the technology is not that much better compared to a lot of other countries as well. So it always bothered me that we never really tackled the conversation about just how expensive the healthcare system is and how it's very geared towards a for-profit model. And it's always been towards, let's just give everyone insurance and let's just foot the bill for everything. And I don't know if that's the responsibly or like the responsible thing to do. And then it went from there to like, I don't know, like the UBI as well, like universal basic income. And I used to be a big proponent for that. And I actually enjoyed the idea of thinking that Americans should be given some form of dividend back for all the success that a lot of other massive companies have had that really diminish employees in many different regards. Amazon being the most popular of all of them, essentially they hire a fifth of the total amount of people that Walmart hires, but yet they generate almost just as much revenue as Walmart. And it's because they've automated out a lot of different jobs. And I really feel like this pandemic, and I've talked about this before, and I've talked about it with friends before, that I feel like this pandemic is really going to incentivize businesses to start to look to really minimizing the amount of employee involvement that they have in their core business, and look towards more automated services. And um it's crazy to see just how quickly a lot of companies are adopting that, because they really understand the impact of having employees, which is, we get sick, we're fragile, we have our own means, we have our own agendas, we can quit whenever we want to, and all of this freedom creates a liability for businesses. And when businesses are trying to um, chase, profit margins and become more profitable and generate more revenue for shareholders, it essentially generates this like extreme interest in trying to minimize the biggest expense for companies, which generally is employees. Because when you employ someone, you have to prepay into or you have to like offer certain benefits and to remain competitive, and it becomes very expensive for companies. And when you start to automate a lot of this work away, a lot of people are losing jobs, and they don't really have a means to enter a competitive workforce anymore. And so they kind of just have to take whatever job is available to them. And I feel like a lot of people during this pandemic are seeing that, like where a lot of their work has been taken away from them for whatever reason. And now whatever they were really great at, they no longer can get into a career path in that job field. And so they're really having to just accept whatever level of job exists out there. And that availability of work that's going to be out there, it's not going to be great. So it's really forcing people to either be super creative and start their own business and navigate an already complicated field when it comes to being an entrepreneur, to being creative, period, and making revenue from your creativity. So getting a lot of people to do like YouTubing, podcasting, digital media, like marketing, a lot of different things that they can do from home, which is great. And I think that people that are into those job professions are really looking forward, like thinking ahead of the curve when it comes to automation. Is really going to be, that's like one of the last things that they're going to be able to take away is creative work. So UBI just started to make a lot of sense for me until I started to realize the problem with UBI. And I saw, who did I see on Joe Rogan's podcast a while ago talk about this, but very smart individual. And he essentially brought up the fact that, actually, I'm very curious now, because this guy actually, I enjoyed what his talking points. Gotta switch accounts real quick to my one that I use for everything. As you can see, I'm subscribed to, oh my God, I'm subscribed to 187 YouTube channels. That's how much YouTube I watch. This is insane. Just as, actually, right now it's actually showing the most popular people I've been watching. And so, you'll see Linus Tech Tips is number one right now. I like tech news, and he does a lot of techie stuff. Second is The Hill. The Hill, I talked about it in a podcast. I think if you're going to be getting your news from any source, it should be from The Hill. Um, they're they're really doing a great job of trying to be as center as they can be with the reporting of the news that they that's available out there. Mr. Sunday movies, great. If you're into movies, they do a lot of funny reviews, and I just like their entertainment. They're from Australia. Philip DeFranco, that's where I get my daily, like, I don't know. Philip DeFranco is where I get a lot of my daily news of everything, like social media news and like uh global and national news. But they're 25-minute episodes, and so really he only talks about like the 4 or 5 highlights from the previous day, and he's only Monday through Thursday, which is kind of a drag. I wish he did them every single day. I do enjoy Philip DeFranco, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job, but um he just doesn't have enough time. And he does have like another news organization that he has that I'm not subscribed to. I'm not really into it because I really enjoy how he portrays things, and he's just not really involved in that work. CNBC, a lot of financial stuff. I do like finances, and I like following financial markets. And Dr. Dre, oh wow, I said Gray a lot. Dr. Dre is the name of the dermatologist recently I've been watching to learn how to get rid of my dry skin and how to manage a youthful look. Her stuff is really great. Joe Blow videos, again, movie stuff. I've been watching a lot of just like movie reviews recently. This is a video gamer, H. June Shroud, big popular video gamer. H3 podcast, one of my favorite. It is so unfortunate that all they do is their podcast, but H3 used to be my favorite YouTube channel because they did a lot of parody and memeing stuff on their channel, and they just kind of stopped doing that and focused more on a podcast. But their podcast is great. It's pretty hilarious. Unbox Therapy, more tech stuff. Marcus Brownlee, NKBHD, a lot of tech stuff. Vsauce, before H3, again, another creative avenue that or not creative, actually. Vsauce's videos are just great. If you're ever, it's so annoying that he doesn't do them as much as he used to, because he became very big and he blew up on YouTube and started focusing on a lot of different things. He made his own YouTube Red series, which was pretty awesome, called Minefield. And so he has 3 seasons of that. Holy hell. But his videos are some of the best. Like, where does he? I wish I could just start playing some of these, but I can't really. But I don't know. I don't know the rules and regulations around that, because I see a lot of streamers that just watch whatever people's videos, and then I guess they pause and commentate, and then they're able to do it. And it's very common in Twitch. So, but since my stuff is distributed everywhere, I'm very hesitant to be doing that kind of stuff. But Vsauce is great. Honestly, if you want to get lost in some sciencey stuff, and not really sciencey stuff, but it's like a mix between philosophical and science, but the host is just great. I love him a lot. Legal Eagle is great. Saturday Night Live for comedy. And Gadget Tech. Veritasium. I'm told that I look kind of like the guy from the host from Veritasium. I don't really see it, but some people claim I do look like him. I guess maybe a little bit if I did my hair his way, but no. Great stuff. His stuff, Veritasium, is really great. He's right up there with Vsauce. David Blaine, awesome. This one right here, though, you got a lot of just good stuff. Lemonino, Lemmino, Lemino. I think it's Lemino. Great YouTube channel that I wish he did a lot more videos. Mr. Beast is video game stuff. Mr. Beast actually he's been blowing up on YouTube, and very immature stuff, and he's really targeting a youthful base. So like you're 18 and under. But I just love watching just how much he gives to people. He takes all of his money that he makes on YouTube and creates like the wildest challenges out there. I mean, just look at some of these, the most recent ones. Get this random person 1 million subscribers. So he made a random challenge and had 5 different YouTubers, small YouTubers, be on like a challenge, and the winner of the challenge got host their YouTube channel hosted on Mr. Beast's channel. He's got like 43 million followers, pretty big. And so that was pretty cool. Would you rather have a Lamborghini or a house? Giving people a house or a Lamborghini, that's just insane. He gave a random winner an island worth $800,000. It's like a 3-part series. He gives a lot to poor people as well, a ton of stuff to poor people. And it's just his videos are just all over the place. Like I said, he just targets a lot of like his videos really target that demographic of people. But in his videos, he does show to be caring and loving to people and the less fortunate. One of my favorite videos he did was he literally went into a Save Lot and bought out all the food in the store, everything. He bought out the whole store, and then he took all of that food, all of those resources and everything, and he went to all his local, all the local shelters and homeless facilities that really help people that are struggling, food shelters and all of them, and donated like to 5 different locations to like food banks, donated all of this stuff worth, I mean, easily like, and I was actually surprised to see how expensive everything, like if you asked me, go to your typical Save Lot. I don't really shop at a Save Lot, but I've heard of them. But let's say like if you're from Florida, go to your typical Publix. I don't know, go to your, if you're here in Nevada, go to your typical Sprouts or Kroger's. If you live in the Northeast, Kroger's, go to your typical Kroger's, right? And you walk in, how much do you think all of the stuff in that store is worth? Like all of it. Like throw a number. I honestly would have guessed maybe $500,000 plus. If there was no electronics, it's just food stuff, produce, animal, and like cosmetic stuff, all of that stuff. I really thought it was going to be like $500,000 plus. When he did it, this Save Lot, which was a massive Save Lot, by the way, it wasn't a small one. At the end, I think he spent like $180,000. And I was like, what? So for $180,000, you could buy out an entire grocery store. Like, how many people can that feed? That could feed a ton of people. And then it made me just despise more the power that billionaires have, the wealth that these guys are sitting on, and that they don't do anything with it. And really they're draining that wealth from everyone else. And I'm not helping the situation when I use Amazon a lot for all of the conveniences that it offers to me in my area. But man, that Jeff Bezos, I cannot stand that guy. And I'm also more than likely probably never owning a Tesla, because Elon Musk is just, I don't know, just something about Elon. I used to worship that guy. I used to think a lot highly of him, but I feel like he's becoming another Jeff Bezos. Like him and Jeff Bezos are very much alike, but they're just working in different industries. And I feel like they're thinking 1,000 years ahead, and they're thinking, how do we keep the human civilization, still going, and fuck current generations? Like we've already X'd out of our mind all the people that are currently living at the moment. They're useless, they're wasteless, and we could get rid of them. We don't really care about them. We're really trying to figure out how to think ahead and to keep the human civilization still going. And I mean, I can empathize with what they're trying to do, and making clean energy and all of these things. And I know that you have to kind of work towards being a profitable industry to kind of have enough leverage and money and to deliver a message like, we need to clean the earth, we need to do all these things. But man, they are really doing it at the sacrifice of their workers. And I mean, I've heard Elon Musk is like one of the worst CEOs for his employees. Like he is like cutthroat. and just looks at the numbers and analytics, and he has like a goal and an agenda to try to hit, and he just aims for that, and he's ruthless. He doesn't care what it takes to get there. And I mean, that way of managing a business kind of delivered where we're, and this whole started with politics. And I'm going to get to my political point in just a second, but um Elon got to a certain area in life because of this ruthlessness, but I think he should just like scale it back a little bit, but he hasn't. He's like going forward at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I dude, when that guy passes away, it's going to impact all of his companies so hard. They're all probably going to go bankrupt, to be honest. I would love to see what Tesla would do if Elon Musk passed away tomorrow. And I mean, that company would, all of you that are investing into Tesla, you're really just gambling the dice and just, because that company is not that profitable. It's not worth its market capitalization. That's for damn sure. But on the other hand, Amazon is, because they have figured out a way to completely destroy commerce and destroy all aspects of e-commerce as well. Because like, I mean, if you're trying to make your own website and sell a product, and I've talked about this in a previous podcast as well, I just, man, that the level of power that CEO has is just unbelievable. But it just, when you think about just how many grocery stores exist out there, and like the average value, even if it was like $300,000 to buy out an average grocery store, that grocery store has enough food to like feed an area of a city for at least like a week, 2 weeks, or a month. So you could easily feed a city worth of people, probably with, $5 to $6 million a month. That sounds like a lot. $72 million a year sounds like a lot, but when you're a billionaire, that's absolutely nothing. That's that's 7% of your net worth, and you're making easily 7%. I don't know. It's just, when you have $200 billion like Jeff Bezos, that's not even 7% of his net worth. That's like 0.04% of his net worth. It's like, it's nothing to him. And so I don't know, like when you think of that level of wealth that these people have at the very, 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 very top, it's like, why do you need all that? You don't need that money. You could buy businesses with that much money. You could buy massive businesses with tons of employees and still have money left over. I mean, it's just insane. Anyways, so UBI seemed like something that made sense for a lot of people that were going to be losing their jobs because of these eccentric billionaires that are just really trying to eradicate jobs left and right. But the problem with UBI is that there's no threshold, because just like everything else, it needs to follow the consumer index, and it's not going to fulfill a big need for a lot of people. And so the problem is that society, once it gets something, demands more of it, especially when it's free money like UBI is, or universal basic income. And so what this guy, that's what I was going to look up. Joe Rogan. I don't know if I'm going to find it. This guy was from, I did. Naval Ravikant. Wow. Thank you, YouTube, for showing me the most recent people I watched on Joe Rogan. Yeah, Naval Ravikant, this guy right here, smart guy. I really saw eye to eye to a lot of things that he brought up in his in the podcast with Joe Rogan. And one of the things that he brought up was like, I don't agree with UBI. And the reason why I don't agree with UBI is because, once you start giving people money, and I didn't really ever think about that. I never thought about like the fact that if you offer to people free money, they're probably going to want more in the future, especially when, like, let's say a COVID-19 epidemic happens. You're gonna give people a ton of money, and it's gonna be hard to take that back, because as you could see with the unemployment situation that we're in at the moment, and it's well deserving, because I mean, it's better than having people living on the streets and not generating any wealth for society. But you can see what happened when you gave people $600 and then you take it away from them. and how much they depended on that money while they weren't working. And so, yeah, it's just, I don't know if I agree with UBI so much. I agreed with what he was talking about as a solution. He was like, I don't agree with UBI. What I think should happen is that every 4 years or X amount of years, if you want to change career paths, you're allowed 1 full year where you can stop working, make money, and as long as you can prove that you were training or getting an education to retrain yourself for a new job profession, like computer science, like computer programming, marketing, digital marketing, all of these things. Because he said that it's hard to predict what jobs are like. Yes, Amazon's eliminating a lot of jobs, but it's also it's hard to understand what other jobs can be created from the elimination of jobs. And I've kind of, it's difficult to so I just gave so much shit to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, but if it wasn't for people eradicating jobs that people have become so customary to do throughout their lives and throughout multiple generations, like manufacturing, things of that nature, we wouldn't see people making money in the craziest ways, like being a gamer, being a TikToker, being a YouTuber, being a podcaster, like, and I'm thinking of creative things, but again, like 10 years ago, if you would have asked someone like, hey, you're going to be worth $1 million just doing a podcast, people would be like, yeah, okay, whatever, crazy person. Or you're going to be worth $1 million just making silly videos on a social media app. It's like, yeah, okay. And people are doing that and they're able to do that. Now, the amount of people that could successfully do that is a small number, but it is jobs that are being created by an elimination of other jobs. But anyways, this guy was saying that as generations, as time goes forward and we see new industries start because advancements in science, technology, the needs of your immediate environment, whatever it is, people should have the ability to change the career path that they're in and take a full year to kind of just focus on that. And I kind of agree with him. I think giving people free money isn't the answer. And I didn't ever think it was, unless they were incapable of ever earning money, either through a physical disability or a mental disability. But if you're not incapable because of those two things, I think the wealth that you get should be generated by the means that you do. The problem is that for a lot of people, they're not getting paid for the amount of work that they do. And that's another conversation as well. It's like, how do you tackle that? And how do you accurately value a person's time? I mean, there are different ways I guess you could do that. And that is like, look at a company's profits, determine the amount of employees that it has, determine an appropriate number to give to shareholders every year. Let's say 10% of the profits, and then the rest gets distributed to the employees. I think it would be a fair way of doing things, or even a 50-50. I don't see why that can't be done. Like if a company is profitable, right, and they're generating a ton of money, why not take 50% of that money, give it to the shareholders? Here you go. You made a ton of money. Here's your dividends. Enjoy it. But just understand that our profits could not have existed without the work of all of these fantastic employees. So we're going to give them the other 50%. Like, I don't see why that can't be done. Because those shareholders would never maximize their worth and I am simplifying it a little bit. And I guess you'd have to weigh out, like, could these employees have had their jobs in the first place if it wasn't for the investments from the shareholders? And how much of the total prize pool should everyone get? What if the company isn't even profitable and it's negative? A lot of companies start out being negative and they survive off of investor money. And so should investors really have to split the money initially when that company couldn't even have existed and probably would have been belly up if it wasn't for the investors? That's a difficult argument to be had. And again, it's a weird circle because those employees wouldn't, or those shareholders wouldn't be in a position where they would have a ton of worth if it wasn't for having all of these employees working really hard and doing a good representative work for that company. But there has to be a formula around that. There has to be a way to calculate that. I don't understand why you couldn't calculate something like that. But anyways, I did like his idea though to go ahead and Naval Ravikant's idea of just instead of giving people UBI to instead give them like the ability to just take a year off to retrain themselves to go into a different job profession. I like that idea a lot, actually. I've done that personally, but I wasn't paid for my time to retrain myself. I kind of just jumped into a new career path and just learned inside the company. But I kind of had to just take whatever level of pay the company was offering me for not being really an expert in that field, but just hiring me because they liked me as a representative. And then I had to work my way up to the pay I wanted to have. I think it would be a lot better if I could have just taken a year off and just focused on learning everything about that industry and then jumping into it after the fact. The problem with that argument too, though, is that a lot of people take education thinking that they want to get a job in that job profession. And then when you get involved in understanding the ins and outs and the way the industry works and how competitive it is, I don't think you can get all that in a year. I think it takes a lot of time. Like getting into like just learning a job is great, but you also need to learn how to market yourself. And I guess if there were courses in there that taught people just how to like be more marketable and how to put yourself in front of the right people and how to have good conversational skills, I think that needs to be taught to everyone. And I mean, honestly, I don't even know at that point if everyone knew that skill set, how anyone could be competitive with any other person outside of just how good they are at their job. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that just don't know how to communicate. But anyways, so there are like things that I agree with from the Conservative Party, but then that I don't. And there are things that I kind of agree from the Democratic Party, but I don't either. And I really hate the two-party system. I feel like the two-party system, I mean, has existed. Let's just look it up. How long has the two-party system existed? Pretty much the entire time. So it says right here, well, Wikipedia, and I trust Wikipedia. You should too. Wikipedia says that the current political system, the way it exists, like the Democratic and Republican Party, that system, two-party system, has existed since 1852, and they have controlled the United States Congress to some extent since 1856. That is just insane to think about. And I've traveled around the world, and the rest of the world honestly doesn't do it like we do. They do it in a I mean, even our neighbors like Mexico and Canada, they don't do it like we do. They have tons of different parties, and the way the representatives are distributed is based off the total percentage of people that voted for that specific political party. And then they take all the top favorite representatives in that party, starting from the top. Let's say this person got a majority of the votes, and then they go all the way down. And then they allot that party's total votes and then they elect that many representatives from each party. I really think that idea is a really great idea, and I think it's a better way of representing the immense differences in views in America. And I think the two-party system obviously clearly doesn't want that. And they've done a really good job of figuring out how to eliminate the idea of thinking of outside of a two-party system. And they were really quashing that idea. Like the Tea Party, I think, was the most recent one that I could think of that was really trying to separate itself and become like this third-party system. But then they kind of got absorbed by the Republican Party. And they were like, oh, yeah, your ideas are great. Let's just absorb you into the Republican Party. And it's like, no, they should have stayed as their own third party. They probably would have made a big change. But these parties are very smart. They know that, like, the Democrats are doing that right now with the progressives. Like, they're kind of absorbing the progressives and being like, yeah, like, don't be just progressive. Like, you know, like, we're, like, part of your party as well. And we're going to start fighting for your ideas, too. Like, your universal basic income or, like, your UBIs and your Medicare for all. We're going to start looking into that. We're going to implement that. So just, like, don't separate from our party. And it sucks because like the Republicans, they have the libertarians, they have like a lot of different branches within the Republican Party, but they're like branched up into like one party and they all have to like all vote the same way. And the same thing with the Democrats. Like you have like the progressives, you have the like just all these different levels of Democrats. And it just sucks that these two parties are so smart. And I think what they're doing now is that they're creating with the news and with social media, they're trying to create this polarization of ideas where it's like you're for this or against it. You're for this or against it. And because you're doing that, you're really separating this idea of a moderate perspective where it's like, yeah, I can see that way of it. And then I can see the other way of doing it. But maybe there's a better way in the middle. Like, why can't we just agree to something that kind of incorporates both parties? They're not wanting to do that because they know that if enough people do that, they're going to start their own political party. And that might become a strong third party. And it was funny. I was watching The Hill today, and the military, they were doing a poll of who the military, like the soldiers within the military and the officers, who they would be more likely to vote for, Biden or Trump. And it was funny to see like with like Biden was like at 44%. I think Trump was at like 37%. And then it was funny to see that some of the members of the military, actually almost a fifth of them, 17% of them, said that they would vote for a third party. And I would be with them as well. I really hate this idea of trying to put us into like one category of ideology. I really would love a political party that just kind of comes in and their agenda, their ideas, just to sit there, listen to their constituents in their area and be like, okay, I hear you out. I hear you out. This is the economics of the city. This is the people that are struggling. Like, let's try to figure out a system where we can kind of help everyone without shitting on one side or the other. And I think a lot of people would vote for that party more so than anyone else. I feel like a majority of America is moderate in some degree, where they're just like, you know, like I kind of see eye to eye with this party, but I don't agree with everything they do. But you feel forced to have to be a Republican because if not, then you don't really have a party that you can really say is your party. And when you lose identity like that, a lot of people just don't enjoy a lack of identity. And so, it's easier for them to kind of just default to a political party. But then when you do that, you succumb to having to agree with every decision that party does. And I've seen a lot of friends do this. Like I don't agree with the current president and a lot of his ways of doing things. I do agree with some of the things that the Republican Party is doing, but I think the president is a horrible representative of an executive leader. And I don't think he represents fundamentally what it means to be president. And I really think a president needs to be someone that's a leader and it's a unifier. And more so than anyone else needs to be the type of person that speaks for America and not for a party. Of course, presidents have their political parties, but if you look at some of the best presidents America's ever had, they didn't just say like, "Hey, I'm only representing my constituents." No, I'm representing America. Like America's running through a difficult time right now, and just the way he keeps just narrating like the attack after attack of an attack on the Democratic Party, and again, I'm not for the Democrats at all. Like it might sound like I am, but I really am not. Like I don't like that party. I don't like Biden. I don't like him as the person that everyone's willing to die on. Like that's the hill that everyone's going to die on. It's Biden for the guy that's going to be taking down Trump. It's like, it's so stupid. Honestly, it just shows you how pathetic the two-party system is. And everyone's in this point. And it was the same thing in 2016 as well. I knew a lot of Republicans at the time that were like, man, we don't want to vote for Trump, but we definitely don't want to vote for Hillary. So we're voting for the less of the two evils. And it's like the same conversation again for 2020. We're voting for the less of the two evils. And it's like, fuck that system, dude. Like, let's get away from this. Like, and and it sucks because the narrative from both parties is like, well, if you vote for someone from the third party, and by the way, there's no one in the third party system that is anywhere remotely being a good representative for president either. They're really cuckoo in some of their ideas, and it just sucks that a lot of the people that kind of always like run during the election period as a third party candidate, they're always really shitty. I think America really needs a strong third party member. With social media being as strong as of a platform as it is, I don't really think you need to debate anymore. I don't think if because there's like this monopoly on the party system. Like if you're not like if you're not the nominee for the Democratic Party and if you're not the nominee for the Republican Party, you're not getting a platform to debate. And no matter how many people in America like you, but I think that conversation would change pretty dramatically if you became the type of person that kind of campaigned very early on, very early on, like maybe 2020, you start 2020, you have to work really hard because you're trying to go against the political system the way it's existed for the last, holy shit, almost 200 years, 170 years now it's existed like this. And so to really go against a system that's been disestablished for this long, you're really going to have to hustle and work hard to kind of get this idea going. But I would love to uh, be a part of that movement. This like idea where it's like, okay, let's get down to the city, the county, the state. What are the struggles in this area? Let me hear them, and try to just kind of listen to the community, and not listen and be really good about when people are attacking the other, like, and blaming the other party, like blame the Republicans, blame the Democrats. Like, listen, let's not get into this perspective where we're gonna attack parties. Let's attack the systems that are causing these issues for you, and who's managing the systems. Let's not attack the parties because you're giving too much control to these parties. Even by you just attacking them, you're giving them that much power. We need to take the power away from them. We need to stop talking about them. We need to. That's why I don't even name the president anymore. I don't agree with anything he does, and I know he loves hearing his name all the time, but I haven't referred to him by his name in like the last 2 years. And again, because I don't respect him as a president. He was a great business person. He's a great marketer. He knows how to get people to hear him out and how to get people to come out and listen to him. And I think he's phenomenal at that. I think he's got a really great skill set at that. Probably some of the best compared to any other president in the history of America. But he functionally is not suitable for the position of president. I also don't think Biden is as well. I think once Biden gets in, I think it's going to be very strong for a lot of people, the Republicans and a branch of Democrats to really kind of separate from their parties. And I think I'm hoping for a Trump loss because that's going to really fundamentally change the Republican Party, and it's also going to force the Democratic Party to change as well, because when the progressives see that Biden isn't doing anything on their agenda, they're going to separate as well. And I hope that it's a big chunk from both parties. And I hope that's enough of a narrative and conversation that the Republican and Democratic Party kind of crumble from that. And then we have all these micro parties that are involved. That would be my hope and dream. I don't think that's going to happen. If Trump wins, then the Democratic Party for sure is going to change fundamentally. And that party will deteriorate. And I don't think the Republican Party really wants to be the party that follows in the footsteps of this president, because in the end, this will be his last term. And then who's going to be their next nominee? This next nominee is going to have to be someone just as extreme as Trump is. Damn it, I just said his name. But yeah, they're going to have to be as extreme as this president is. And again, I think the narrative that our president fought on was a great narrative. To the idea to drain the swamp. There was a lot of things that I didn't agree with the minimizing of foreigners. I don't agree with that. Me being from a Hispanic nationality, my family came here legally, but a lot of people, I can understand when you're a beacon of hope and you demonstrate yourself that way. um, in America, like in the world, and you're like telling people like this is the greatest country ever, why the fuck would you think otherwise that people aren't trying to come to our country? And then a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to come into this country legally. I had to go through that, not personally, like me, because I was born in Florida, but my wife, who I married, legally was entitled to get her green card. That whole system we had to go through. Not only was it super expensive, it cost me a ton of money. We tried to do it ourselves, and the cost to send in the paperwork, get the fingerprinting, and everything of that nature, prove that we were legitimate. And I understand, like, if you need to look at our history, understand that we're legitimately being married, because obviously you can see shows like 90 Days, the 90-day series on TMZ or whatever, or not TMZ, but whatever, AMC, where it's like 90 Day Fiance. Like, you could definitely see, like, that's borderline illegal. I feel like that should not be allowed. But anyways, um, like, if you want to investigate us, by all means, do that. I understand. Like, if you don't want to give my wife a green card until you thoroughly do a research for us, that's great. But the cost associated with it is insane if you do it yourself. The average cost is like, just to send in the applications and everything, it's like $2,000, not including all of like the like information that you need to send to them and all the work that you need to do. That's a lot of money for some people. Like, sending, I mean, ask the average family if they can cough up $2,000 to allow their sister or brother to enroll for the possibility of getting their green card, because that's just applying. After the application, then comes all the investigative work and everything of that nature. And um, we did it legitimately. We paid all the fees and everything, and even then, doing everything the right way. You should have seen the envelope that we sent in. We sent in a stat. I've never sent out this much paper by mail. Like, literally, we sent tons of photos, tons of documentation, tons of bank statements, tons of like supporting information. We made sure to fill out all the documentation. Me and my wife reread the paperwork at least 1,000,000 times before we sent it in, because we knew that this was very important. Reread everything. And then in the end, the system is so ass backwards. They were trying to claim, so you can't just call in to the USCIS. That's the organization that manages immigration. And you can't call into them and be like, hey, like, where am I at in the process? They can't, all the representative will tell you is like, you'll be receiving something in the mail telling you exactly where you're at in the process. Like, if you haven't received it yet, we'll attempt to remail you something. And for whatever reason, me and my wife were getting all of the mail when it was like coming to like fingerprinting, me and her getting fingerprinted and getting our photos taken and having to like schedule appointments at the local USCIS office here in Las Vegas. We were getting all of those letters from the organization. But they claimed that there was something, an issue with our case, and they were requesting, like, we didn't know, but they were telling us that, like, hey, you're going to be receiving a letter in the mail letting you know exactly what we're missing from you, and you need to send that to us ASAP. You have 90 days to send this back to us. If not, your application is null and void, and you have to reapply. And we were like, okay, great. And we waited like 2 weeks, nothing. Called them. Okay, we'll resend the correspondence. Waited another 2 weeks, nothing. Called, nothing. And so we were getting all the other pieces of mail, but this letter that they kept claiming that they were sending to us, and they couldn't tell us over the phone. We were asking them 1,000,000 times, hey, can you just tell us what you guys are missing so we can send it to you? Sorry, unfortunately, we can't tell you that information. We're going to have to send it to you. And this was super stressful. Like, imagine spending $2,000 for an application and then not being able to get on the phone and figuring out exactly. I mean, I understand what it's like with people with unemployment right now. That's probably what they're coping with at the moment. They can't get a hold of someone. They can't get the answers for why their application for unemployment is not going through. It's the same thing with immigration. And so, and this is supposed to be something that you're supposed to be able to do on your own. And then it finally made sense. I had a friend, his fiance, who's now his wife, was from Sweden, and they came, and he didn't even want to deal with any of that. So he went and got a lawyer first thing. And I reached out to Brian and I was asking him like, hey, did you run into any of this like difficulty? And he was like, honestly, I don't know, man. My lawyer's like handling the whole thing. And it started to make sense to me why people need to get an immigration attorney to do this kind of stuff, because it's ass backwards. I actually should get my immigration attorney. So anyways, fast forward, we had to get an attorney. The 3 months passed. We got a letter in the mail claiming that her application was invalid and that we were going to have to do everything all over again. And the idea of having to cough up another $2,000 and go through that shitty process all over again, not knowing exactly what we missed. Again, we sent I'm not lying when I tell you the envelope that we sent in was this thick, and it was just sheets of paper. There was no folders. There was no nothing. It was just sheets of paper in there, applications and supporting evidence and a ton of it. And we know they received all of it because, I mean, they told us that they had received it, but they wouldn't tell us what we were missing in this stack of information. Again, rereading everything that we needed to submit to them. And so ultimately in the end, when we got this notification, it was like a blow to both me and my wife, especially my wife, because you have an X amount of window that you can apply for a green card status if you're here in this country. And if you don't get that, you could potentially get deported, even if we're married, and have to get, and then if she does, then we have to go through the process in her home country of Colombia. So I would have had to go to Colombia, go to the local embassy, and we'd have to go through this entire process at that embassy before she would be issued a green card to be able to come back to the States. And so that was stressing us out. We were like, well, holy shit, now they know about all of this. Are they just going to come in and kick us out or kick her out? And then I have to go follow her. And I was like, fuck this, dude. I'm going to cough up money for an attorney. We found the best immigration attorney in Las Vegas. You know, we coughed up money for that. And ultimately, all of this ended up costing us like $4,000, like $3,500, I think it was total, that we end up spending. $3,500 fucking dollars. Like, tell me and then when you talk about like let me put it in perspective. In Colombia, I'll show you right now. In Colombia, because I actually lived out there for a couple years, I know what it's like in Colombia. And Colombia is actually one of the more wealthier Latin American countries in the Western Hemisphere. I would say it's Mexico, Brazil. Brazil's not even Latin, but they speak Portuguese. But we'll say Mexico, Brazil. I think it's Ecuador, and then Colombia. It might be Colombia, then Ecuador. Colombia's either third or fourth place in the wealthiest Latin American countries, right? So we're talking about from Central to South America. Right now, by the way, right now the U.S. dollar is so strong globally, by the way. So if you're looking to travel and you don't care about COVID-19, hey, you do you. I could definitely understand why you would want to travel, because your dollar's worth a shit ton. Like when I lived in Colombia, I don't know if you can see it here. Will it show? Yes. So when I went to Colombia, it was in 2012. As you can see, the U.S. Fuck me, that's so long ago. Sorry, I think it was 2013 actually. Sorry. The Colombian peso was, so for every US dollar, it was 1,850 Colombian pesos. So one US dollar was 1,850 Colombian pesos, right? And then, I mean, just you could tell just over the years, it's gone up. That doesn't mean that there was an economic crisis in Colombia. No, there hasn't been, really, honestly. Colombia, if anything, is doing really well for itself. But the thing is that the US dollar has just become a strong currency globally. And because of that, its value globally is worth more than other countries as well. It's just because we've had a huge economic growth here in this country. But I'm surprised to see that the US dollar is still strong, considering how impacted by COVID-19 we've been. And I guess you could kind of see in the last year, you could see that drop a little bit, because, I mean, let's look at when COVID started. No, actually, COVID made the Colombian peso skyrocket for a little bit, but I think that's just because Colombia was also struggling as well. And so the whole world's struggling with COVID, but right now the US dollar is $1 to 3,700 Colombian pesos. So essentially, my dollar was was doubled in value in 8 years or 7 years since I lived there. That's one of the reasons why I came here, because when I came out here, the US dollar was starting to go from like 1800. Let me see. It's been 5 years since I lived here in Las Vegas. So I think, well, let's say March of 20, was it 2015 when we moved here? I think it was. It was March of 2015. So in I could see the trend. So I started to notice this trend where the US dollar started to get strong, and you could see that in 2015, when exactly when we moved, the dollar was becoming a lot stronger. So my value out there in Colombia was getting very diminished. And let me put it this way: the average Colombian minimum wage right now in Colombia is what is it? Is it 2 million pesos right now? So it's, I think it goes up every year. Let me look it up. Minimum wage in Colombia. Minimum wage in 2020. Fuck, dude, it's not even a million fucking pesos. That's fucking depressing. Or wait, 1 second. Colombia's government has raised the minimum wage for 2020 by 6%. So let's just say it's a million. Look here. Sorry. Okay. Let me just read this paragraph for you, for the people like audio listening to this. For everyone else that's watching the video, you could just see it for yourself. But for audio people, I looked up minimum wage in Colombia. Get this. Colombia's new minimum wage for 2020 rises 6% to 877,000 pesos. Colombia's government has raised the minimum wage for 2020 by 6% to 980,000 Colombian pesos, approximately $300. And that's actually probably wrong. If we look right now, 900, let's say a million pesos, COP to USD. The minimum wage in Colombia, a minimum wage for a month is $270 US. I paid $3,500 for my wife to legally get her green card here in this country. So that means theoretically my wife, she wasn't making minimum wage, but she was making about double minimum wage. So she was making about 2 million Colombian pesos. Even then, like, it would have taken my wife to save up with not paying any bills if she was just making flat that money, not grocery shopping, not paying rent, not doing anything. It would take my wife still half a year to be able to save up enough money to be able to finance her own green card status. That's insane. A lot of people just, and again, like when you talk about the cost of living in Colombia is not cheap either. Cost of living in Bogota. So here's a perfect example. This is why a lot of people in Colombia, for instance, they don't live by themselves. They live with their family members majority of the time because it's super costly. So cost of living in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, right? It's not cheap for the average Colombian. So currency in Colombia is Colombian pesos, blah, 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 expensive city to live in. Okay, so Bogota is a moderately expensive. So I'm reading from this checkinprice.com, which sounds like a reliable source because, I'm reading what they've put down here and it all looks, let me just read this real quick. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this definitely a good source. Anyways, okay, so I'm gonna read this paragraph from checkinprice.com for the cost of living in Bogota, Colombia. Many big businesses, both national and international, are located in Bogota. It's the capital of Colombia. So it's like where most people would go to make money. Spanish is the official language spoken throughout the city, but with its international relations, there are many opportunities for other languages to be spoken as well. Very true. Bogota is a moderately expensive city to live in, with the average monthly cost for a single person being about 500 US dollars. And that's about right, to be honest. Um, I when I was I did English teaching for a little bit part time just to kind of make extra money on the side to blow it on stupid random stuff, so I didn't have to go through completely all of my savings. But I would play a lot of poker and drink and party and stupid stuff. But anyways, um, I made I think 3 million Colombian pesos a month out there doing part time teaching, which is it's good. That's good money in Colombia, to be honest. Like for an individual, it's not great, but it's good money. It's I mean, for my age at the time, it was good money. But I was an American, and that amount of money per month is definitely a lot less than what you're making. So 3 million Colombian pesos for people listening, by the way, is like $812. Um, so I could live comfortably on that pay rate, and I did, and I even had a roommate. I was rooming with the owner of the company I work for, and so I definitely had extra money to spend. When compared to America, Bogota is very affordable, and it's very true. The most substantial portion of your monthly budget will go towards rent. Rent is expensive in Bogota. Just to put it in perspective, let's say, so in Colombia, I wish America did this as well, but in Colombia, they have this system called estratas, and estratas are zones. And depending on zones in Bogota, estrata, sorry. Um, there's six strata systems, and the way they do it, they break up the cities in these countries into like zones, and each zone is valued based off of the net worth of the people living there. And so number one is very poor, number six is the highest. And so if you make a ton of money, you live in zone six. If you are very poor, you live in zone one. And what happens is that the system is that people that live in zone six pay more in taxes than the people that live in zone one, and the utility costs and rent and everything of that nature is subsidized in the people that live in the lower systems, and everyone that lives in a higher system pays more to subsidize these lower income areas. And I enjoy the idea, and I think the idea is great, but it's put in place to kind of offset the class systems that exist there. But I don't think they do a good enough job about that, because just because they have a poor cost of living, um, they're also not making a ton of money, so they still remain poor. The cost isn't subsidized enough that it really offsets them to get them up to a higher strata area. So, anyways, um, but let's just say in strata five, right? Strata five or three. Sorry, three is like the average, I would say. And like strata three is not nice of an area, but let's just look up rent. The average rent in this area. 1 to 6, your budget to live. I'm not looking up here. Uh, my Spanish is really bad, by the way. Anyone that's Spanish, and I can clearly not spell in Spanish. Um, you don't want to type these Google searches in English, by the way, because when you do, all of this is in Spanish, by the way. You're not going to be able, I can at least read it. You're not going to want to type in English because they overinflate the cost, because they realize you're an expat. If you're an expat, they know you have a lot more money, obviously, because you're not making Colombian pesos, you're making dollars or British pound or whatever. And so they're going to charge you a lot more for the cost of living. So sometimes it's beneficial um, to hide your IP address when you Google search. Like, this is probably going to be inflated as well because I'm searching in America, and it can see that. And it's also good to search in the language that's local to that region as well, because if you don't, you're going to be seeing fees that are very high. So anyways, I'm looking up rent right now in Bogota, and I wonder if you can separate it by stratas. Let me see here. Strato. So let's do 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let's apply the filter. And so let's look at this one. This is Strato 3. And it's a very small place. It's 50 square meters because we're the only country that does everything in non-metric system. Let's do 50 square meters to feet is 538 square feet. So it's a studio essentially. It's a studio. How many bedrooms are in here? Does it say? It doesn't say. But this is the average. I would probably say this applied to average rent for someone living in this area. 900,000 Colombian pesos. So it's about what someone makes minimum wage. So you have to live with someone else to pay for a studio. And I mean, the average Colombian can't afford that. And look at some of these prices. Like here's one that's 500,000 pesos, but this is in zone 2. And zone 2 is, you're starting to think about like your safety at that point. Like especially if you're not from Colombia, these are some dangerous areas. You don't want to live. The south of Bogota. Be careful. I mean, honestly, that's somehow that's a 3. These are the amount of bedrooms. That was a 3-bedroom, and like as a 500 square foot place. So your bedrooms are super small. And again, so as you can see, the cost of living is pretty expensive in Colombia, even if you're making barely any money. And that's not including utilities. That's not including anything. That's just rent. And so this is why people have to live with their families and things of that nature. Now, look at how expensive it is if you're now talking like the rich areas. So let's look at 4, 5, and 6. Ready for this? Okay, let's do the cheapest to the most expensive. That's not true. This isn't true. This is like renting a room, I guess. I don't even know what this is. Let's go to the more realistic ones. So we got 1 bedroom in the north, which is actually really nice. That is 12 square meters. So when you're looking at the photo, essentially it's just a bathroom. It looks like you're living in someone's. I can't laugh at this. It's sad, but it's like living in a closet pretty much for 500,000 Colombian pesos, which is about almost a majority of your minimum wage if you're making minimum wage in Colombia. So you're not living in these areas. 2-bedroom. This is zona Estrata 5. It's not too bad, but again, you're paying 650,000 Colombian pesos, and the property inside doesn't really look the best, as you could tell from the photos. It's just in a nicer area, so if anything, you're going to be paying a cost for that. And this is Rosales. This is a pretty nice area, like a nice looking little area, little nice apartment. It's iffy. It's not the 5. Like, but when you're talking about like American level of quality, this is when you're gonna have to start looking at the big prices. And look at some of these prices. Oh my god, dude. This is rent. By the way, this is rent. This is not buying. This is rent. So let's look at this bad boy. I mean, this is beautiful for Colombia standards, but it's still it's not that big. I mean, it's pretty big. Let's see. 200 square meters. Actually, 270 square meters. That's actually pretty big, actually. That's 3,000 square feet. Yeah, that's pretty massive, actually. But 3,000 square feet, you're looking at 13 million. So this is, divide that by 4 pretty much. This is $3,000 a month in rent. That's not bad. I mean, that's what you're paying in America. But again, in Colombia, I mean, like if you're paying that, how are you going to afford that? Unless you're making a good amount of money. This one's more realistic. It's about $1,000 American dollars. Like if you're an American, if you're making $1,000 a month right now, you can live in something like this. It's not really nice. It's in a strata 5. this site is not showing. Anyways, if you make American money and you want to go to a different country, definitely the smart thing to do for sure to like go to a country like Colombia. But anyways, what the whole point of this is like to go over the fact of just how ass backwards it's the expectation to think that these people could just afford to come and apply for a green card status and be able to do it. Like it's very expensive. Again, a majority of their money is gone. Like it's imagine living paycheck to paycheck in America. It's the same fucking issues in a different country. It's just their money is worth a lot less, but their money is worth enough to get them the same kind of means as it is to be an American. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they're going to be paying a stupid amount of money to just live, to be able to eat and live and everything of that nature. And so most people, the young people that I hung out with when I was living in Colombia, the idea that any of them would have any more than 200, 300,000 pesos extra to spend on whatever they wanted to do a month was pretty crazy. Unless they were part of like a rich family and then like the rich family gave them whatever they wanted. But like if you were just like an average person, the idea that you were going to have an extra 200,000 pesos to have to yourself was pretty crazy. But even then, I mean like 200,000 Colombian pesos is $54. How many fucking months would it take you to save up to be able to pay for a green card? When let's see, the total cost for marriage green card in the States. $1,700. I think it went up a little bit. I think we paid $1,500 when we did it. $1,700. How the fuck is someone going to pay $1,700? And so the idea is like, well, we should only be allowing rich people to come into this country. Like, I mean, these people are pretty well educated. It's just that and when I say pretty well educated, I'm talking about very well educated. They at least speak 2 languages. And the idea that, you know, you're in a system, you could be a very smart person, but be in a system where it's very social class system. It really is. It's not like America. I mean, America is becoming kind of like the system as well, where like the ultra rich are at the top and then the poor, and there's really no middle class. Colombia is kind of slowly developing a middle class, and I feel like America is slowly losing its middle class. So America and Colombia are no different, honestly. And these people that are just very smart, but it exists in a system that has impacted them in such a way that they are forced to take these shitty jobs that they're in right now. You can empathize with someone else that's in that same position in a different country, but then we have this different level of standard of idea to think like that type of person needs to jump through a million hurdles just to become a legal citizen. We had to go through that. And again, we did it all legitimately the right way, and ultimately had to get an attorney and had to pay double this cost to get my wife a green card. And that attorney, by the way, was phenomenal. Darren, you made a huge difference in our lives and really brought such a peace of mind. I need to have him on as a guest so he could talk about this stuff. I need to reach out to him. He's just a great attorney, and we actually don't see eye to eye a lot on political stuff too. So it'd be great to have him on because he is a staunch Republican, and I'm not. And I know he probably thinks that I'm a liberal guy, but it's funny when we talk about politics because he's like representing me as my lawyer. But we have such a great relationship that we enjoy so many different things, like soccer are one of the things, and we just like enjoy just talking. But man, when we get into politics, it was always funny going into our meetings because half the like a third of the meeting would just be like, oh, like this is your current situation. Don't worry, everything's fine. I'm taking care of everything. And then 2/3 was, hey, what are your thoughts on so and so, or what are your thoughts on this like political idea? And I would be like, well, you know, I don't really agree with that. Oh, really? Why? And it was just always funny. And then my poor wife's having to sit there, listen to both me, listening to her husband and our attorney just go back and forth on political viewpoints. But he would be really great to have on. But he really made a huge difference. But it just be getting into this country legally is so expensive. So this idea to expect that everyone around the world, and again, Colombia is probably up there with making money. I wonder if you could break it down. Minimum wage in or rankings by Latin countries, Latin America. Hit me with all the fun facts, Google. I love Google. Google's so great. You can find all the answers on here. This is 2018, but this will kind of give you an idea. Look how close I was. Boom. Let's see. So Argentina was this closed 2017 with the second highest inflation in Latin America after Venezuela. However, ranked as the highest monthly basic salary in the entire region. Interesting. In this nation, a worker will earn $544. So Argentina's number 1, Chile 2, Uruguay, Ecuador, and Panama, then Brazil, then Colombia. So I was off, I guess, when it came to minimum wage, but I still think wealth by country, I don't think it's in this order as well. The wealthiest or GDP of Latin American countries. Brazil, Mexico, Colombia. Yeah, you see. So Colombia is the wow, though. Look at the amount of money per capita, though. That's pretty shitty. That's pretty crazy. So Colombia is the third at their GDP annually is $380 billion. Can you believe Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos is, this is not even in order. What am I talking about? Argentina's up here. Colombia's number 4. Boom, nailed it. I didn't put Argentina up there because I knew they were dealing with inflation issues, but I guess they're number 3. So Brazil, Mexico, called it. Argentina, didn't see that. Colombia, Chile, didn't see that. Peru, forgot. Venezuela, what the fuck? Ecuador, 9th. What? I was wrong about Ecuador. Maybe I got that mixed up with Chile. But anyways, this is listed by 2019. Okay, 2019. So Brazil, Mexico, Argentina. It makes sense because we haven't gone through 2020 yet. Colombia number 4, and their GDP per capita actually improved over what I just saw on this list. Actually, where was that? I don't know where I saw that at, but Colombia's GDP per capita is $15,000. So that means that's the amount of revenue generated by every individual, but that's not evenly distributed. Clearly, you can't, like, for instance, if you do the GDP per capita in the United States, it's probably ridiculous, but no one's making that much money. But look at that. That is pretty wild. Argentina coming back. Love it. If you love meat or wine, Argentina has some of the best wine and meat, and it has the best soccer player of all time, Lionel Messi. I hope you leave Barcelona, my friend. I will follow you wherever you go. I hope you and dirtbag Ronaldo actually get put on a team together. That would make me kind of like Ronaldo, because that would be freaking insane. You would see a destructive force for the next 3 years if you saw those two players work together and play for the same soccer team. I would be shitting my pants if I ever saw Ronaldo and Messi on the same team. But anyways, yeah, it's crazy to think that these countries, when you look at this, that they can afford something as much as, $1,700 when their minimum wage is that much a month. Where was that number at? Where was that at? Anyways, it was like on average like $500 a month, and most of those people's all their money is gone at that point. Like it cost of living, I said, matches and exceeds minimum wage easily. So that most people have to live with other people in their family just to be able to exist and survive, because food and everything of that nature is pretty expensive. But yeah, it's ass backwards. I don't even know how I got into talking about this conversation. But anyways, I just think like a lot of systems definitely can be improved. And I think having someone in there, oh, I was talking about like just a moderate party. I think we need to focus on developing a strong third party, and that's the moderate party. And all their agenda is to just listen to constituents, take in their money, right? You donate to someone that you believe in that's going to actually make change. And when this person comes in and if they don't make the change, then you vote them out. You don't keep voting for the same person. But that moderate party is the party that listens. They should align themselves as the party that listens. And I promise you, I told myself this before. I'm gonna tell myself this again. That um if my daughter becomes 18 years old and chooses to do her own thing at that point, or whatever she chooses to do at 18, she's now considered an adult. I'm running for office. I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going to get into politics. I want to start getting involved in politics, period. But I don't want to get involved while I'm having a family. That's not what I want to do. I definitely want to do it when my daughter's a lot older. So in 17 years, 17 and a half years, 17 and a quarter years, in the year uh 2038, 2038, is there let's see, presidential. So we have 2024, 2028. So 2040 is the earliest I can run for president. I'm not going to do that. But 2038, I can run for Senate. I could run for Senate or House for sure. And so definitely going to do that. And if there's no moderate party by then, that's going to be my whole agenda. Is just to hear both sides, come to an agreement. Look, nothing's black and white. Everyone, let's come to a gray area. Let's just get together and try to solve issues. And I know for a fact a lot of people can agree on certain things, and we just need to unify ourselves over what we can agree on. And the first things first is that we're Americans. But either way, this podcast has gone very smoothly. I've been live, and not a single issue with camera, with audio. Um, we talked about a lot of different things. I had a few few viewers come in and out, but that's great. You know, it doesn't really matter. At the end, it's just staying consistent. Remember, guys, like I always said, the most important thing you can always do is just stay consistent. And so if people understand that I'm going to be doing this every Sunday at 6 p.m., you know, every single time, then I'll get more and more viewers, and I'll be able to market it as well a lot more because I'll feel comfortable with the fact that I'm doing that. I'm very hesitant to do certain things when it comes to marketing myself because I'm just learning from my past experience when I had my own Twitch channel and when I was streaming video gaming and I blew up and then I took a break. If you didn't have a chance to listen to my uh, my streaming podcast session, like the whole week that I spent talking about it, and then I had a phenomenal guest on. Her name was Julie Clark, and she has blown up on Twitch in less than a year, has hit partner status, and has well over 150 viewers on average watching her stream. And she just is doing it playing music, something I didn't think was ever in the capacity that anyone could really do, and making a professional career out of streaming. But honestly, you can make a professional career out of streaming just doing almost anything nowadays. And I brought up the fact that like when I was talking to her, that one of the things that really hurt what I did was I blew up, did really well. Now I was not that far from her when I was taking it serious. I would on average have like 80 to 90 viewers on average, which is a lot when you're talking about, you know, congruent viewers. It's not like nowhere near like the top 1% of people that are streaming, but 90 viewers, you can make extra living off of that, like a good amount of money from that. And so I know Julie's almost replaced her entirety of what she was making before from what she was doing in the past with having 150 plus viewers on average, not breaking 200. And so just to let you know, I mean, there's a ton of money to be made in that. So like when I was making 90, it was a good amount of money that I was making, especially when I was still working at the time too. And so, but But one of the things that still follow me to this day was just the fact that I wasn't consistent. And so I've been very hesitant to market what I'm doing because of the fact that I'm afraid that I'm going to lose that consistency. But I have to drop that fear as well because I'm very proud of where I'm at now. Like I talked about this a couple days ago. 2 days ago, I hit on this past Friday 90 episodes straight, not missing a single day. And I'm about to hit 100 soon in 8 days. And so on not this Monday, but the Monday afterwards, that's gonna be my 100th episode, and I'm not missing a single one. And I've had a lot of stuff happen in between all these episodes, but I've always found the time to just get in front of the mic for a second and just turn on the record button and just do this. And so it's definitely something that I know for a fact I'm going to keep doing. So I need to get over this hesitation to market myself and really start focusing on that. And so I tried a little bit. I put on my stories on Facebook on Instagram that was going live, but it was last minute. I literally did it right when I was going live. And so I need to be better about not doing that. And now actually starting to market it now throughout the week. And so we'll see how that goes. And I'm looking forward to gaining more. By the way, I am getting way more listeners. I don't know what it is, like on not so much on the YouTube, but on like my average listeners on my podcast. It's going up a lot more, and I don't know what it is. I think a lot more people are bringing me up to their Amazon Echoes and their Google Homes. I don't know what it is. Like the analytics tells, there's a big percentage of the graph that tells me like 43% of the people are coming from other source, and I don't know what other source is. I'm assuming it's from those resources. So either way, though, I'm going to end a note on this podcast. It's gone on for quite a bit, actually. It's almost like an hour and a half, I think. Yeah, almost on the dot, an hour and a half. And so I just want to thank everyone again for hearing me out and just sticking with me and being super patient with me as well. I love doing these, and I don't see myself stopping, and I keep, I'm definitely going to keep seeing it grow. Having the YouTube channel now, live streaming and being blasted everywhere podcast wise is just so exciting. It really is. It still reminds me of just like 4 days ago when my mom was telling me that she asked for her son's name podcast, so Jason Navarro podcast on Google, and then it started playing my podcast. It really brought so much excitement to me. So anyways, thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you guys for coming in and out, for hearing me out, for listening, for following me, for continuing being a part of this endeavor. And I look forward to doing more of these in the future. I love you guys truly, and I'll catch you guys mañana. Peace.